Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salam alaikum, my dear third secondary students. Welcome to the second semester of Durus Online. Today, as you can see, at the end of Unit 2, so we're going to have listening, vocabulary, grammar, of course, from your English book, Traveler 6. So let's get started. Today, we will learn three things. We have three objectives. One, to apply the listening skill. Two, to practice using new vocabulary. And number three, to use the causative form correctly. So for number one, I asked you to get your headphones ready. So we're going to listen to something. And of course, after we listen, we're going to have some exercises applied about our listening. So pay attention when you listen. Two, we're going to practice using some new vocabulary. So we're going to learn some new words, especially with idioms. And for number three, we're going to have some grammar, which is how we use the causative form correctly. So let's get started with the listening part. So we have listening tips, and today the listening tips are two. So one, before you start listening, okay, this is before you start listening, you get your headphones ready. Read the options carefully to get a general idea of what you're going to hear. Two, listen carefully to the dialogue and focus on the question. All three choices may be referred to the radio program. However, only one of them correctly answers the question. So before you start listening, you can really seize the time and find a chance to read the options. So you clearly have a previous idea about the answers, so you can pick one answer very quickly. So that's we call you have a general idea of the answers. And for number two, listen carefully and focus on the dialogue and the question. So all three choices, you have 1, 2, 3. One is correct, okay? And I refer today we're going to listen to a radio program about body language and stuff like this. So listen carefully and let's get started.
It's important to realize that communication is not limited to verbal exchanges. When we speak to each other, we convey a number of messages using our bodies, facial expressions, and tone of voice. Non-verbal communication or body language can give us an indication of what people are really thinking or feeling by either reinforcing or contradicting what is being said. But body language can be misinterpreted. So I would urge listeners not to jump to conclusions when assessing other people's physical signals. Probably the best way to convey to others what we are feeling is with our faces. Often words aren't even needed when one look or facial expression will do the trick. For example, when we want to show happiness, we smile and our eyes sparkle. When we are surprised, we widen our eyes and our jaws drop open. When we are afraid, our upper eyelids rise, making the whites of the eyes more visible, and our lips become tense. These facial expressions are common to people from all cultural backgrounds, but one should keep in mind the fact that some types of facial expressions differ from country to country. In North America, for example, people blush to show embarrassment. In Japan, embarrassment is shown by laughter or giggling. I'm sure you've heard the expression, the eyes are the window to the soul. There is great truth to this, because our eyes very clearly communicate what we are thinking and feeling. Eye contact is a particularly important element of face-to-face communication. If you want to form a bond with someone, it's vital that you maintain eye contact for at least 60 to 70% of the conversation.
So that was the part of the listening, and it's interesting because it talks about body language and how body language actually it tells us about what we think, or it helps us to find what really people think about us and how it's different from culture to culture and from country to country. So let's start asking the questions. As you can see, we have A, B, C, and I told you we have three options. So let's choose one. Let's start with the first one. Body language has to do with using our bodies, facial expressions, and A, speech, so expressions and speech, or expressions and tone of voice, or expressions and laughter. So which one is correct? Body language has to do with using our bodies, of course, facial expressions, and tone of voice. And for number two, for example, he talked about in Japan, Japanese people, they express embarrassment by laughter or giggling. And that is how different from one culture to another. So for one, body language has to do with using our bodies, facial expressions, and tone of voice to convey messages. And number two, the Japanese express embarrassment by laughter and giggling. Three, to communicate successfully with someone, you should maintain eye contact for at least 20 to 30%, 60 to 70%, or 100% of a conversation. You remember he said that if you really want to draw somebody's attention, you have to focus 60 to 70% on or using eye contact with him or in that part of the conversation. Good, now let's jump to vocabulary, and today we'll learn some idioms. And there was a great idiom in a conversation that we just listened to. It was like, eyes are the windows of the soul. So it means eyes tells us what people really think. As we say, maybe in Arabic, eyes don't lie. So this is an idiom. An idiom is a set of words are set together to give in, a rhetoric image. And this image means something else rather than what is written in the sentence. For example, and these are idioms that has to do with parts of the body. Okay, so Harry has been, looking rather down in the mouth. So to look down in the mouth since he missed out on the promotion. When you say somebody is looking down in the mouth, it means he's unhappy. So the sentence could be Harry has been looking unhappy or sad since he missed out the promotion. 2, my dad has put his foot down. See, foot, mouth, this is all about body parts. So, or parts of the body. So my dad has put his foot down and I must stay home on school nights. It means my father or my dad insisted on something. My father, you can say, my dad has insisted I stay home. So, it's done. Number 3 also, the third idiom is I can tell you I had my heart in my mouth. You don't mean to take your heart out and put your heart in your mouth. It means something else. So I can tell you I had my heart in my mouth when I first traveled abroad. It means you were excited, you were worried or frightened. So you're trying to express some feeling. So we got 3 beautiful idioms. They mean different things and they're related to body parts like, mouth, we got food, and we got heart and mouth again. So someone who's looking down in the mouth, it means he's happy. Or someone who decided to put his foot down, it means he insisted on something. And finally, to have your heart in your mouth, it means you're excited, worried, or frightened, or anything, or the same expression or feeling. Now let's listen to video, and this is the part of the grammar. So we're gonna listen and watch the video about causative form, and we can use causatives to describe a service performed by or performed for us by someone else, or to indicate that one thing or person causes another thing or person to do something or be something. Let's watch and talk about it.
Causatives to describe a service performed for us by someone else, or to indicate that one thing or person causes another thing or person to do something or be something. The most common causative verbs are have, make, let, and get. Let's first have a look at have. If you know the agent of the sentence, then you can use this structure: have or has plus agent plus base form of the verb. Look at the example. Susan had her brother do her homework. As you see, we have had plus the agent, which is her brother, plus the base form of the verb, which is do. But if we don't know the agent, or the agent is not important, then we use this structure, have or has plus object plus past participle. Look at the example. We had the windows cleaned. Had plus object, that is the windows, and past participle, that is cleaned. The next causative verb I'm going to talk about is get. Get has the same meaning as have, but there is a difference in the structure when we know the agent. Get plus agent plus to plus verb. So as you see, here the difference between get and have is that after get, you need to use the infinitive, but after have, you should use the base form of the verb. Look at the example. Susan got her brother to do her homework. Got, agent, which is her brother, to, and the verb, which is do. If you don't know the agent, the structure is get plus object plus past participle. So it is exactly the same as have. We got the windows cleaned.
So beautiful. That was about causatives. So the difference between get and have is that for have we need to use the infinitive, and after get we use after have we use infinitive, and after this we use agent, to, and a verb. Let's take more examples. If you see the video was very clear. If we go to some examples, like in this kind of question, complete the dialogues using the causative form. So we have a causative form here. Tom and Mike, they're talking. So Tom said, "What are you going to do about your computer?" And Mike said, "I'm not going to a technician repair it." So what I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna get a technician to repair it, or I'm not gonna have it repaired by a technician, or something like this. And the rest of the sentence is again, and pay an arm and a leg, I'll buy a new one. So he's not going to fix his computer because he's not gonna pay too much. So he's gonna buy a new one. So how are you gonna say, I'm not going to get it fixed by a technician, or I'm not going to get it repaired? Repair and fix are the same. We actually can say both. I'm not going to have it repaired, this is with the past participle, or I'm not going to get it repaired by a technician. Okay, now the second example about the Jacksons, we have Tracy and Jessica. So Tracy is going to say something, and it's a question. Do the Jacksons paint their house every year? Jessica, not exactly. They cannot afford it, so they paint it themselves. So they don't have too much money to paint to get somebody to paint their house every year, so they do it themselves. So what are we gonna say? The Jacksons paint their house, and be careful, this is a question. So we say, do the Jacksons have their house painted? Do the Jacksons have, and then you have the agent, painted, past participle, and if the agent is not there, you have the object, which is their house, painted, and this is the past participle. So today we have learned three things. Again, we actually had something very important about body language and how we use body language using eye contacts, and how body language are different throughout cultures, and some vocabulary and idioms with the body of parts, to put your leg in the house, to put your heart in your mouth. And finally, we just finished and watched a nice video about causative forms with verbs like get and have, let, and so many other ones. We had an example here. I had my car fixed. So these are the references and resources for you taken from your book, The Traveler 6. And finally, for more information and lessons, you can visit our website, ain.edu.sa. You can follow us on Twitter for more updates, ain_edu. And finally, on this number, if you have any inquiry. Thank you for watching this. Until I see you again, have a good night or day, and assalamu alaikum.